Yeah, we're pretty much getting right into it. Boom.
Oh,
Well, I started recording already, so
oh
whatever,
boy.
whatever
Caught me when
works.
I wasn't even ready. My goodness.
Hey, you know what? I woke up not 7 minutes before I started the call, so I was like,
Wow,
"Oh,
I'm impressed that you can get ready that quickly.
I'm not ready. I'm
What do you mean? Look, your hair is spiked. You're wearing a shirt. That's something.
yeah. Well, you know when you wake, you know when you
You
kind
got
of
a
wake up.
coffee there?
Yeah, I do have coffee. So for those, so I don't know how I'm gonna cut this, but
You're
hey,
not.
yeah, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just be like, we'll just go in raw and unlubricated. Let's just,
That took a turn.
yeah, whatever. Anyway, hey, it's Sold, and we're doing another tank talk with my co-tank, Shad. I think I'm pointing in the right direction.
Blue, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm gonna get this right. It's weird because I have two cameras working right now.
Right.
And so what you see right now looks totally different than what you're gonna see on the thing. But oh well, who cares, man?
Whatever.
It's good to have you, dude, because I feel bad. Like I wanted to take the time to be like, okay, Eternal Palace is over. This is like a month ago now, you know.
Right? Yeah.
And
I was just thinking about that. I was like, I don't think we even did like a recap of what even
no,
happened in that
no,
thing.
no, we didn't. So if anything, hopefully the trauma is still fresh in your mind, but I at least wanted to go really quick with like we don't really need to go like boss to boss like we usually do, but we'll just go
Sure.
with like basically overall what did we just like and not like.
All right. Well, actually, I liked right away. I liked the atmosphere. It was good to get something new to see. So I always appreciate that. The dungeon diving is where I like this game to be. So getting a new atmosphere is always fun.
Cool.
Rather than the same home city that I see every single day over and over and over.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to be kind of pulling to, hey, this is what we didn't like about Boda or Battle of Dazar lore, and then now that we're going into Eternal Palace, here's what here was something I
Sure.
definitely agree. Like actually going into a new environment, maybe for Alliance players that are like, oh, cool, we get to invade the Horde City. This has like a special
Right.
meaning for us, and for us, it's like, okay, here's like all the things that we're really familiar with for the most part. Hey, look, we're on a boat. There's
Yeah.
ice.
Like,
That's different.
hey, the last fight was cool. Yeah, that was an
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. The last fight was pretty interesting. Um, well, yeah. Please, I'll let you continue.
Hey, no worries. Yeah, I don't got much to say though. To be honest, I actually grew tired of the raid pretty quickly, and I think it's just the amount of bosses has been so minimal this expansion. That I don't know. Maybe that's where it is, where it just felt like we were just doing the same thing over and over, and that got repetitive. Quicker than usual, I think, compared to some of the previous expansion raids.
Hmm. I think that I'm trying to remember like how many bosses were in Battle of Czar lore, but I think overall like that raid because there was so much freaking trash, it just felt longer.
I can see that.
Yeah, but Bodo just felt long, whereas Eternal Palace, even on heroic, we could do it in a day. I'm sure like
Right.
the a more steady guild who has like a more regular roster, they can take care of it in like less than 45 minutes or so. But it's nice that we can at least for the most part, like if we didn't do the heroic warfront last night, then we probably would have finished the whole raid
Right.
yesterday, even though we had like two people who were like super undergeared and inexperienced with the raid, and we were just like totally carrying them. But we were still doing like okay up towards the end when we were
Oh
fighting
yeah.
Zakul, who we haven't really fought in quite a while because AJ was busy or otherwise not doing some other stuff. He was our shadow priest, so he
Right.
pretty much
It
carried a lot of that fight.
very important to Nizul
Which
at priest.
which brings me at least maybe just when it comes to our roster,
Cool.
that was something that's I didn't like so much, that at least when that so cool was just like on a different level.
Right.
The DPS requirements for him when it comes to like avoiding hysteria, I know that was a big thing, and actually even someone on the Discord channel on the on my Discord channel, they were like, "Oh, we're having a lot of trouble with school and blah blah blah," and I was like, "Is it hysteria?" They're like, "Yeah, it's hysteria." I'm like, "Okay, just like lust, lust, and try to power through it." And that's something that I actually liked, and I don't know, it was kind of a double edged sword for me, where I liked it and I didn't like it, because in Battle of Desert lore, I had a big gripe, and I think we talked about it too, where there were the DPS requirements. We
Right.
had to go through this thing of, okay, either stop DPS or we got to push it like really really hard in order to get through this. But if we push too hard, we need to kind of like hold back, or otherwise stop DPS, DPS. That was like a recurring
Yeah,
thing.
right. A stop DPS call is never what you want. That's just throws a wrench in the spokes.
Yeah, definitely. So I think they definitely learned that here, where either that or we just like did better. I know that one of the more pressing fights where that came to mind was Ashvane,
Right.
where we could, if we didn't do enough DPS, it would be a much harder fight. But the fact that we did have enough DPS go through it, and we had to figure things out and figure out a way to push a little bit more DPS towards the end, we were very much rewarded for it. At the same time, though, it it feels like it really trivialized things too. Once we were able to figure that out, we effectively kind of broke the puzzle. And I've read around later where people will be like, "Oh, well, that's what you're like quote supposed to do," and I don't quite agree with that. It's just that it definitely made things a lot easier.
Sure.
But
Two phasing that feels like is the strategy, but I don't know if it's intuitive that was really the purpose of their design for that fight. But
yeah. I mean, it's either a super burn fight or a super endurance fight, depending on the kind of DPS that you have. And but otherwise, I still enjoyed the fights. Like I said, I'm not gonna go fight by fight, but like
sure.
another thing that I did like the first boss. I think
Yeah.
that this first boss was the most difficult first boss that we've had in a raid, I think, ever. I'll go with this one. Yeah. I'll go with that phrasing. This was the hardest
Do you mean
one ever.
overall, or are we talking specifically in how to like the tanking aspect of it?
I think overall,
Okay.
tanking wise, we're like, I I know that you and I, me specifically, I would always let that damn debuff fall off, and I know we were regularly complaining about, crap, the thing fell off because the boss is in the middle of some animation and it just happened to
Right.
run out. It's like if it lasted just a little bit longer, then it would feel a little bit more like a formula, but it felt less predictable. So there are often times where I'm like, doo doo doo, I'm going with my muscle memory, doing the same routine, and then all of a sudden, bramp, I'm pooping out green crap all over the place. I'm like, oh, don't say anything.
Right. And always green because you never got blue. And
That was,
I
yeah,
don't. Yeah, I still think there's something locked in there that I don't know if it's like how you set your raid order, but yeah, that was so weird that I think only one time I ever got like the poison debuff to start out of the however many times we pulled that.
I
And I
remember,
think I was actually tabbed out at the time when that happened. I wasn't even ready for it. And I was like, "Oh, green. I don't know what to do."
I
And
remember
so I
it
just
was,
kept moving, and I think that made it work.
I remember when we first started doing that fight. That's when I was like, "Oh, okay, blue. Let's do this. I just got to jump and do this thing." So like I think on normal, like
Yes.
when we were first doing it,
Oh,
yeah,
right. Yeah. Not.
yeah. But then afterwards, I was like, "Hey, how come I'm always getting green?" But then like just the other week, I had blue, you had green, and then it was chaos.
Right. Yeah.
What
That
do
I
we
wasn't ready
do?
for that. I was tabbed out and none. Yeah. It was super weird. Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, and you're right. The one thing that made it weird is when she do her little AOE of like half poison, half frost. That was right when your debuff was supposed to drop. So you have like a 1 second window of is she gonna melee me and reset this or not? And yeah, it was literally like a coin flip.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it's you're almost better off just like, well, I'll just stand here. If I drop it, I drop it. But
Yeah,
we try to make that like the taunt point. But even then, sometimes it doesn't work that way. I think there's a tweaking to the timing in that fight. It just felt a little weird. Um, especially when we were just kind of progressing. Now that we kind of blow it up, I feel like the timing isn't nearly as bad. But
Yeah, definitely not so bad afterwards. And just like any other boss, for the most part, except for like Zakul, because our DPS, we had the DPS for it, but AJ, our Shadow Priest, just broke it so hard
yeah,
that he broke it so hard that it made us kind of mentally like, it would kind of psych ourselves out whenever he wouldn't show up. We're like, okay, do we want to do it? And then I think mentally we would all ask ourselves, do we really want to go through all that goddamn trash? And then go through with the fight. Like, I would say, like, if there were like very minimal trash packs between shoot, I keep forgetting the name of the fight previous to
the
that.
Queen's Court thing.
Yeah. If Queen's
Yeah.
Court, if the trash between Queen's Court and Zakul was like one pack or something like that, I think that we would be able to regularly clear it. But the fact that it's
Yeah.
not, we're like, screw it. And we don't have AJ. Forget it. I don't want to bother with this shit.
Yeah, it is frustrating to. I don't know if anyone else out there has that same situation, but if a fight kind of hinges on one person being there, I think that feels a little bad. So,
Yeah,
and maybe it's just because of how broken Shadow Priest is and the way they designed that fight. But I don't know, it just feels a little
it was
sad.
it was mostly that. I mean, I'm sure that's like between the Ellie Shaman that we were running with, like, if as soon as we would switch things up and have them yeah, go ahead and like cleave the crap out of them, I'm sure that their DPS would spike, and then the damage would just be shifted elsewhere. But but since Shadow Priest dots were so effective, I was basically telling everyone, don't even bother with the boss. Like, even if you get like 5% more damage doing single target, just don't bother with cleaving, and like that's it. Let AJ take care of everything. Yeah, just let me and AJ take care of everything else. Yeah, it created such a huge DPS disparity where he would do like twice the damage of the number 2 and number 3 people, and
At
it's
least twice.
and it was just because of that.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
And then by contrast, Ashara, that I almost feel bad for, because we struggled and struggled and struggled, and then we're like, you know what? Let's go with this other strat where we just try to burn through, and we just
Zerg it,
and we just broke it, and then I was like, okay, cool, we got it, yay! But I didn't feel quite as fulfilled because we didn't solve the puzzle. We just kind of broke it.
Agreed. I'm with you 100%. Like, if we were trying to do the fight as intended, like use the spears, break the bubbles, kill the Naga ladies, but then somebody's just like, why don't we just leave them up the entire time and just lust and nuke the end? And that worked like in 2 pulls. You're like,
I was
so, I don't know. I was speechless. I was just like, well, that happened. Because right, normally the end of progression is like big cheers and hurrahs around, and there's more like a lot of
I mean,
well, all right.
well, no, it was more like pay up, soul, and
right. Yes, because you offered a bounty for the kill. Yes.
Yeah. It only 2 and 2.3 million, I think, something like that. Yeah. Damn, I wish we could have figured out that strat like a couple weeks prior. Then I would have saved myself a lot of money. It's okay. We had fun. Overall, I still like the raid though.
Yep, like the raid. I think we talked about a few things, just really hit the high points of them. I actually didn't have a problem with Lady Ashvane a lot. I like that fight. I thought it was interesting. I think the tanks that I played, being able to, and it's so funny. I thought that we had such a clever idea of being able to, like, because I played warrior through progression, is to heroically back onto the barnacles and then like jump back to the barnacle bash, we like stack multiples on top of each other, and it turns out that's what everyone else does. So I was like, oh, I thought we were clever there. Orgoza, I love how that fight works. I think that's super neat to like pop your cooldowns and then taunt.
That one's fun.
I thought that was loved it. Thought it was super fun.
Easily fun.
And then Queen's Court, I think some people don't like that, but I think you and I had this little game where when he would charge, we'd have to play this little fun game of, can we whop them without them like getting close up to each other to put up their little shields? And that became my favorite fight of the entire dungeon. Like,
I
I
no, I'm with
really
you.
think
I'm
yeah,
with you.
yeah,
I felt the most engaged with that fight. Like
yeah,
I couldn't sleep effectively because there was, I mean, there's so much going on in that fight, and
right.
once it breaks down, then it becomes pretty, you know, it becomes much simpler to understand. Hey, it's this phase, let's do this. It's this phase, let's do this, and then everyone has different roles to take. You know, get ready to swatch and all that stuff.
Mhm.
But so what I guess it was cool because we were constantly like calling things out, even though like we had killed it like many times now.
Sure.
There are still things to take care of. All right, let's take care of uh, star and then purple or whichever colors it was. It was just a lot to do, and it was still punishing. Like if we screwed up, we would still die. But yeah, tanking wise, favorite.
Yeah,
It was a favorite.
it was like a fun little mini game that it rewarded skill. But yeah, it gave you a little extra something to do, and you felt like, hey, by me going the extra mile and like sliding off to the right to like grab him when he charges over there, like that you can make that little bit extra happen. It didn't need to be done, but it was a little something that kind of gave you good feels.
By contrast, it's cool was boring from my
I
end.
bet for you.
I mean, it
So
was
yeah,
just
I always main tanked that entire fight, and yeah, basically you're my lackey. Follow me around to just stay as close as you could, so I wouldn't get as much damage from it. Yeah,
that would be pretty much it.
I feel bad for you.
But yeah, I mean, it was cool. And like, I guess the cool part was that, you know, heck, during over the whole course of the raid, I was able to this time spec the way that I wanted to, and then I felt good about it. And in this case, like
Mhm.
I put everything into like, all right, let me see if I can bubble, you know, have a bubble and a self heal and like another damage absorb and stack all these things and like see what I can do with it. Um, and I didn't give like one shit for DPS at all. And I was like, all right, cool. This feels viable. It feels nice being like
Yeah,
95, 99% parse on heals like all the time as a tank. I mean, it's goofy. And I'm sure
yeah,
a lot of other protection paladins out there, they prefer to run Seraphim and be able to try to burn through stuff. But at least the DPS requirements that we had here were lenient enough. And I was like, okay, cool. Let me compete with the healers. And I was kind of competitive
yeah,
as a healer. So yeah,
yeah. I wish that if they would have did something um well negative, but to make
no,
it
go
kind of
ahead,
a
be
mini game
negative.
for
It's all right.
whoever has that tether attached to them, like maybe have like orbs that spawn or something, and give them something to do. Either it's like whether it's evading or collecting something to like either boost or decrease the amount of like damage the other tank is taking. I think that could have been easy and would have given them something or the off tank or the other tank um, something engaging to do rather than just all right.
Be
Well,
there.
I'll meet you at the circle.
Yeah,
All
I mean, it
right,
was
man.
that,
Next
and
circle.
yeah, it was that, and throwing judgments and taunts at
Sure.
ads, and then waiting for AJ to kill it, or otherwise
Right.
try my best to kill it too. You know,
Yeah.
the deep,
Meanwhile, if you're main tanking that, it is like a tooth and nail, like just making sure every last second of my cooldowns is chained properly. Like, oh, there's parts of that where I was like hanging on for dear life, but
yeah. So at
it
least
have that kind of swing isn't good. I think in a
yeah,
fight.
at least as you know, for the Zakul fight in particular, and overall for the raid, I felt more useful as a protection paladin when it came to my utility. Like I felt like I was using my blessing of sacrifice, and my other heals on other people, including you, a lot more often than before. And
Mhm.
maybe it's because the raid needs to just work on their self awareness and not getting caught in like stupid stuff. But it did feel,
Maybe.
it did feel that um I was using a lot more of my personal utility. And it sounds like you were using a good bit of yours too. Like there were so many fights
Yeah.
where high mobility, being able to jump around, leap around, grip stuff, and whatnot, that it felt like good. It didn't feel as
Hmm.
good as a paladin to like, okay, I got my horse, woo, but I can't do the cool things like jump in barnacles and go back and all that stuff. I had sufficient cooldowns to do it, but I didn't have to because there was still so much. There's still so much room that we would have during
Right.
Ashfane. I'm like, okay, I think we're okay.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't want to, right? Sometimes you want that barnacle bash because a coral spawned too close. We're gonna have to move it anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, there was a little bit of choice in some of that. That's always nice.
Yeah, it's cool that we were able to kind of figure out some of these puzzles ourselves. It just sucks that, like I said, that we were able to break those fights a little bit too easily. I guess that's the challenge when it comes to this sort of encounter design. It's like, okay, at what point are the DPS requirements like so high, or when they're too strict that it causes problems or bad feelings? So it's the typical Blizzard swinging the pendulum, maybe a little bit too far in one direction. But I'm not going to knock them too hard for it,
Right.
because the alternative would have been what was before, where it would just kind of frustrate at least our team with the whole, okay, we gotta stop DPS, stop DPS. Oh, someone fucked up, but they didn't really
Mhm.
fuck up, and it doesn't
Right.
feel good to tell people that. I know that was a big gripe for us last time.
It was, and I do applaud them for not having any like stop DPS mechanics. More of it is like burst phases, like learning to adjust your cooldown windows a little bit differently, and that's fine. It's
Yeah, yeah,
okay. Like not popping everything at the beginning. That goes against kind of the counterculture of the game. So
yeah.
it didn't hinder anyone, but
Yeah,
did change
yeah.
gameplay.
Zakul was a good example of that. Ashara was kind of a good example of that, where we just kind of saved everything. But even when we were progressing, trying to do it normally, we would try to like save cooldowns for when we would try to take down those ads, those mistresses, or those casters on the side that had the bubble
Right.
that we had to break. We had to start timing things that way, but then we kind of figured out a different way to do it. So I'm like,
Right.
oh,
To
okay,
not even bother with them.
yeah.
To ignore that mechanic entirely.
Anyway, though, we're like anyway, after being a month late into that side of things, let's move on to 8.3. So
Yeah, excited.
I'm excited. New
I am.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always fond of new stuff. Have you looked at the things on the horrific visions yet?
I have. I have. I think it's interesting. I actually really enjoyed the what was that little the withered game, and
The
I feel
weather
like
training, yeah.
I feel this is very similar, where it's like you kind of got to build yourself up a little bit throughout time, and it's combining that in the Chromie scenario, which I never completed actually.
You know,
I'll do
I
that.
think that's what it's funny because I've been reading around and I've seen a lot of comparisons to the weather training scenario, and I did it myself until I jumped in and
Hmm.
started actually trying to run it, and I'm like, okay, forget weather training. It's nothing. The parallels with that, it's super minimal. It's very much like a different version of the Chromie scenario, but
Gotcha.
with all
Okay.
sorts of added twists. It has that same feel of progression, but it feels like it has it feels like it has a much longer tail than it does
Hmm.
before. I guess one part is because it seems like the resources that you need in order to upgrade and go down that tree that will let you do it much easier, it feels like that's going to be longer. But on top of that, there seems to be like some additional challenges in these masks that you can maybe find. I don't know if they're implemented yet in game. I wasn't able to test them out. I just kind of powered myself up, went god mode, and just kind of crushed everything. I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad once I get to the bottom of
Okay.
this tree and power everything up. But these masks, they'll grant some crazy debuffs, like trying to run parallels with a Chromie scenario. You'll if you put this one mask on, you'll have like half of the time that you
Oh,
normally
okay.
would have, something like that. So it's weird because instead of time, instead of it's just a timer going down, it's sanity. So
Right. Right.
there are a couple of ways you can get sanity back. You can recharge it, but also throughout this whole scenario, there are enemies that can do attacks that can reduce your sanity as well. So there's definitely a, yeah, you can try to outgear this as much as you want, but if you're bad, you're still going to get screwed because you're gonna be taking all these sanity attacks. But it looks like using these masks, and I'm not sure if you can stack this mask debuff because there are 5 different ones.
Okay.
So you can either take more damage, you'll have less sanity, you'll poop stuff that also reduces you'll basically drop puddles that will also reduce your sanity, and it feels like it can get pretty crazy. And then of course you can do this with a party or a small group, either through from 1 to 5 players.
Right. We know
And it
we'll all
scales.
do it solo.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely want to do it solo, and I wonder like if part of this whole mage tower feel that Ian was talking about is going to be like, okay, cool, you made it to the bottom, that's great, grats for you. But if you do it with like these masks, and you fulfill the certain achievement, then you're gonna get like this badass like skin or a weapon skin or whatever.
Mm,
So that's gonna be what I'm anxious about over the next couple builds as we see what's going on with A3. Okay, are the things going to be fulfilling enough to want me to go through with that challenge?
okay.
So I'm gonna be interested for that one.
Yeah, no, yeah, I've heard people throw the mage tower thing around, and yeah, you're right. Like I think it has to be like complete, the scenario with all 6 masks up or something. That's probably where they're gonna hide the alpaca mount. That's
Oh
what
my
they're gonna
god!
do.
So
So I'll be forced to do it, whatever it takes.
well, I definitely did like doing the Mage Tower challenge. I only did it with the Paladin class. I think you did it with like all the tanks, right?
Yes, I did every tank, and then a few of my DPS specs that I really liked. That once they said that you'd be able to carry on that appearance
Yeah.
forever. There's a few of them. Like I wanted the mage ones because I thought they were really nice. A few rando ones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, my regret was not doing the outlaw one for the cutlass. I really should have did that.
Tisk,
But
tisk, tisk. Oh
shame,
well.
shame, shame.
Damn exclusive rewards that you can't get
Yeah,
back
all that
again.
mattered was the werebear, though. That's the only one that truly it really mattered.
Did you see the dance?
I haven't. I've purposely been saving.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm gonna wait.
I think since I'm not a druid person, like I saw it, I was like, oh, that's cool, cool, excellent, great. But I wasn't like, oh my god, a flail for paladins, that's amazing. And so it definitely
Yep.
like a different feel. But oh well. But yeah, 8-3 as a tank. I don't know. Like I saw some okay things when it comes to like the new essences
Mhm.
that are coming out. But overall, like once I picked them up and started playing with them on the PTR, I didn't feel particularly like, oh my god, this is going to change everything.
Right.
I wasn't quite getting that feeling at all. And the essences, they're not quite out. They're not out yet. We don't know what the new what the new Azerite traits are going to be, coming from the new raid. They're all still placeholders. They're all still
Right.
stuff from Eternal Palace, and that's kind of a gripe from the last tier too. Was that the what you got from there, the essences. The DPS one was kind of okay. Undulating Tides, I believe, is what it was called, where it did like it procced, it did like a pretty decent bit of damage,
Yep.
and then when you went into like half health, then it would give you a reasonable bubble. And for progression, that's not bad. But it wasn't, oh my god, this is like so immersive and great and amazing. It didn't
Sure.
really fulfill on that either. So I mean,
But it does
overall,
do a lot. It does do a ton of DPS.
it is good throughput. I
Yes,
can't.
I have 2 of them on my monk.
Yeah, it's hard to like if you didn't have that, then I'd be then yeah, definitely your DPS wouldn't be like where it is right now. I'm like, oh, Shad's regularly passing me. Oh, he has those traits. Yeah, I'm not gonna touch him. I think if I did like stick with them, because I've dropped them since, because my health barely, it doesn't go down as much as it
Oh
used
yeah,
to.
yeah. On a monk, yeah, that you don't cross that barrier, and I think you only get the one time for it too. So you're just stacking the damage trait. But,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's that was a really nice trait. But apart from that, I was like, okay. I'm pretty sure that it that this one is going to be some sort of sanity based thing, probably a
Mm.
kiss curse thing, where it's like, oh, you need to do this, otherwise you'll go insane, or something like that. So I don't know.
Hopefully, as long as they make it substantial, that's what I hope for.
Yeah, I mean,
Unlike I think a lot of the Crucible of Storm stuff, they try to give that kiss curse thing, but most of it's so minimal that you're always just better going after the raw stats almost all of the time.
yeah, I mean, definitely with the Crucible, I yeah, I guess the takeaway from that was, um, it's great for questing, that's for sure. Like I was definitely using, I think that they were legs that made you randomly just proc some damage, and then it would hurt you a little bit. But as a tank, I'd be like, "Pff, whatever, dude. This isn't going to affect me at all." And then of course there's that one trinket with that would steal health from people around you, whether it's enemies or it's allies, and then would give you a really big heal. I relied on
Mhm.
that like quite a bit, given the small cooldown for it. Um, have you seen the trinkets that are coming out at E3?
I haven't. Nope.
They're not bad.
Okay.
Let's
I
see.
feel it's way too early. I'm gonna get my heart set on like that is gonna be what I aim for, and then eventually come out and all right. Well, if we're gonna talk about the essences, I think the thing that would break that I really want them to do is that essence that lets you steal another person's essence and use it, which I think is super neat.
I think it's cool. I thought that
But I
was
just
really
want to
cool.
use it to use the for focusing iris and stuff. Like I don't know why they don't let tanks use the DPS trinkets. Like our
Because
DPS is so minimal as it is. I don't know. I don't see what letting us every 2 minutes use a beam. How bad that really.
I'm pretty sure it's just because they want to celebrate the role of each role, and otherwise they don't want it to be like, okay, everyone's going to be using the focusing iris for like this particular phase. 'Cause it'd be kind of cool, like just imagine like, like 10 to 20 something people just wah! It's just
Yeah, it'd
like
be
this big
awesome.
thing. That part
What's
would be
wrong with that?
cool.
It's fun and crazy. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's okay. I think if a tank wants to go, I mean, for the most part, on most of my characters, I tend to really just push toward GPS, and in some cases, in some classes, like a demon hunter, that DPS actually directly affects your tanking because you drain healing from the amount of damage that you do. So
That's true, but that's why I think that they're bringing this kind of essence in for this particular patch, because this is the last patch. This is so now we have the opportunity to break things, or have the opportunity to have tanks and healers pick this particular essence up and still and otherwise, yeah, we basically can do that now.
yeah,
So I think that this particular essence is basically what you're looking for, the ability to kind of break things and to have like 10 to 30 people the whole big thing.
it's gonna be amazing.
And then the other and on top of that, we'd be able to like steal or borrow anybody's essence, as long as someone at least has it equipped. But I'm trying to look. Let's see,
Right.
where's this thing? Formless Void. So this thing drops off of Nazoth kills. So it does kind of suck that this is something that you get at the end. And I have a feeling that this particular essence will build up just like the Ashara one, where it requires like raid kills,
Tokens and
and then
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, raid kills, you get a certain thing. But that was really trivial,
Yeah.
getting the essences for that. Like that wasn't so bad. So as we're progressing through heroic, I'm sure that we'll be able to get our rank 2s and rank 3s, because from the looks of it, like the rank 1, it'll let you steal an essence that's rank 1. The rank 2 will let you get will power it up to a rank 2, and then a rank 3 will make it a rank 3. So it's you definitely want to power this thing up in order to maximize the gain that you get from it, because I feel like before that it's not going to be worth it. It's like, is a rank 1 focusing iris really that strong? And if it is, cool, then I would definitely like force the guild to be like, hey GPSers, I'm gonna make you guys, I'll make myself do a mythic plus just so you can get the rank 1 of this particular essence. Otherwise,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I think is I think it'd be interesting to talk about, maybe or maybe not, is as we continue this, Azerite progression system, like how is that gonna push, right? I found it crazy yesterday that people were talking about how like they're still not even over, some aren't even over 60 yet on necklace points, and like I know there's an idea that you don't want to push anyone to like play the game, but I think that the game itself is actually doing a detriment to players because it's a significant loss of power, right? Like if you don't have, I mean, I'm gonna say for DPS because I have not played any DPS at all this this season.
Mhm.
Um, but having 3 essence slots and those all be the best for you, or you having 2 of the random ones that you have, there's a huge gap in the amount of DPS for some of those. And like we said, like some of these fights are, the more DPS you have, it just pushes you through. So I wonder if they're going to continue that. I'm sure they're going to continue the same process of basically kind of making people do the kind of side quests and fill up their necklace as much as they can.
Yeah, like the whole idea of, hey, let me just show up to raid and like that's absolutely it. I think there's definitely a time and place for it. But when it's when when some of the team behaves like that like all the time, um I don't know if it's a problem, but I guess we'll spar over that, or we'll just kind of like mull our thoughts over that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a problem. It just it. I think that I think sometimes there's a big disparity between the Mythic World players where we sit, which I feel is kind of in the middle, and then the I'm gonna say casual people of the world who log in, like LFR is their rating.
Mhm.
It's because the rating scene in our realm of like the heroic rating scene, right? In the middle of the road, I think took a severe hit with Mythic Plus, right? Like I think a lot of players kind of broke off and realized that hey, I can just do these things, get the same type of gear, get it much faster, and I don't have to do the sitting around for 3 hours in a group of people you may or may not even like, and have to go through like the ass pain of no, I love our guild, but I'm saying I, I've seen plenty of drama times on 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 preach that
Right.
there's a lot of people just in guilds that they don't even like even being in because that is the means to their end. And there's a alternate method now. So I think a lot of people are kind of foregoing the heroic experience to just either jump into Mythic Plus or play Classic at this point.
Yeah, let's jump into that part right now. So I guess we are in a bit of a the way that we're positioned with the way that we play and all that stuff. We're definitely in that spot where some people can choose, hey, do I want to do Mythic Plus, or do I want to do raids? And it definitely does feel like that there are advantages to just doing Mythic Plus and getting like massive amounts of gear way faster than you would with a raid, thanks to one, you can just get gear faster straight up through Mythic
Right.
Plus, and then on top of that, when it comes to raids, there are certain detriments. Like you can come out of a raid with nothing, absolutely nothing, or there could be, and there are regularly instances where it's like, okay, cool, this thing dropped, let me trade it to someone. Oh, I can't trade it because of the personal loot shit. Oh,
Right. Well,
bad
that happens with Mythic Plus
feelings.
2 in the end. That's a sad thing. I hope someone at BlizzCon addresses that question to them of
Oh,
are they going to eliminate the personal loot?
oh, I have like 40, 50 questions all lined up
I think it's
if
one
I
of the
can
most
land
important
an interview.
ones.
Yeah,
I think it hurts the casual player base. I know it's super annoying for those mythic guys, but they have a way around it, right? Because they're gonna run their splits with all leather, all clothy,
uh-huh.
all plate, whatever, and they can make that work for them. But in casual player base, it sucks to have like a piece of loot basically drop on the floor because you're literally chained from getting rid of that. Just
Mm.
go back to the way it was. There's nothing wrong with the if your rate is over what is it 50% of the same guild, then you could do
Personal or
group loot or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
guild master loot. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, if
Why not
it,
just go back to that?
yeah, either that or just lift the whole item level, that whole item level restriction thing. To me, that doesn't I don't see a very strong case for having that. It's just let the stuff drop, and from there it's that person's loot to give. If they want to give it away, they should be able to give it away. I
Yes.
think that's I guess that's my whole basis. Just let it happen.
Give
Blizz.
players back their freedom to make their own choice. That's
Yeah. And if the person decides to not give that loot up and be a dick about it, then cool. Let us judge
yeah.
that person and give them shit over it. But
They will be judged harshly.
yes, the whole invisible hand. There's a time and place for it, and I think that it's just gone too far in this case.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the whole Mythic Plus versus rating sort of scene, like I guess it's because there's like such an easy overlap between the two systems that people will take the path of least resistance. And definitely, especially at the start of a new
Right.
season or a new tier, anything that you get from Mythic Plus, once you're able to complete like a 7 towards being able to complete a 10, it's like, okay, cool, here we go, it's Tuesday, I'm gonna get a big ass upgrade. Now of course, as you fill up your slots, you're gonna be like, okay, cool, let's see what I get this time. After like, week 12, it's like, oh, I got another, I got something in the same slots. That doesn't feel great. But the fact of the matter is, you're always getting something as long as
Right.
you complete that 10. So you definitely front load your gear progression much faster than you do with a raid, where it's kind of even. I mean, sure, like the raid will the raid as a whole will continue to get pieces, so mathematically it will kind of work out, but
Right.
it just sucks that individually a player can go into a raid, run it for 2 or 3 days and effectively come out with nothing because their bonus rolls didn't work out, stuff just didn't drop, and no one can trade anything to them. Whereas with the Mythic Plus, cool, I did my 10, I'm gonna get some shit next week,
Yeah.
let's do this.
Yeah. And it's still something. So I did an experiment this season because I was curious. So I generally play 2 to 3 tanks, and this year for our progression, right? My warrior, I only did the one something over a 10. I did one per week. That was it. That was my only one, just to get the end of the loot chest, and the rest of my gear I got all from progression. And then my DK, I ran just Mythic Plus over and over and over. And like you said, it's actually pretty accurate that I became very front loaded in gear very quickly. So I think I was 435 on my DK by the second week of raiding.
Yeah.
Right. So before we even stepped foot in heroic, I basically already outgeared heroic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my warrior was a much slower journey. But eventually I kind of overtook that. What eventually came above is when you can start turning in your Titan Residuum and all that, and I started upgrading all my heroic pieces to mythic pieces, and then like the leap became huge. But so I think from now on, I think the idea is that if anyone else is in a very similar situation of like, oh, I play a couple different characters, I don't know how I should gear properly, play the class you find to be the most fun through your progression. No matter what, you're stuck with that, and the gear will get there. But your gear will be more fine tuned through the rating process. I got to be a little more selective toward the end, to the point where like I am fully optimizing my warrior. Every single piece is haste verse. Like I can actually continue to run shield block nonstop. Like my haste is so high that I can just run active mitigation over and over. And warrior is super fun. Uh, but it took a while to get there. But I enjoyed those steps. For my DK, I actually almost I but it doesn't help that DK is not a very good spot right now for Mythic Plus. But yeah, I've had the same gear forever. There was no progression. I just capped it out and just continue to ride that plateau. And it kind of burns you out. It's not as fun.
Yeah. See, like I do appreciate when Blizzards are like, okay, we want to make it so that your PvP gear and your dungeon gear and your raid gear, that you don't need to have like all these different like separate sets, in order to function in each of them. Like
Right.
before, you needed to have like the gear with all the resilience on it, and so on and so forth, or the gear with all the hits. And because okay, cool, in PvP you only need this much hit rating in order to get hit capped, but then in dungeons you need a certain amount here, and then in raids you need a much higher amount, and yada yada yada. So things would get like a
And
little convoluted, having bags full of gear that you need to swap out. At the same time, though, I feel like the overlap is like is so the ability to just like grab gear from all these different places. It's so easy that it makes you feel compelled to like, okay, there's all these different things I can run. I'm bad if I don't do all of these things. I don't want to do that. I'm gonna lose my raid spot, yada yada yada, and you get into those sorts of conclusions. So something that I've been working on and I haven't put out yet. I'll just run this dry idea by you. What if there was like these soft set bonuses where if you have a certain number, let's go with four. Like if you have
Mhm.
four pieces of gear that come from that raid of that season, then you'll get like a additional 20% either damage reduction or DPS boost or something like that.
Right.
For like four pieces, like any four pieces from a raid. Cool. And but that bonus doesn't apply anywhere except for that raid. And then at the same
Right.
time, like any not dungeon, and like PvP gear. If you have four pieces of PvP gear, you get damage reduction, but it only applies there. And then with dungeon gear, maybe like a certain number of pieces, you'll get cooldown reduction. Because I'm sure cooldown reduction will definitely be a big is definitely a big plus for most classes in a Mythic Plus, considering like time and all that stuff. So it would be a way to have to make it
Well,
so that,
but it only works in the dungeons, right?
but it only works in the dungeons.
Yeah.
So I guess one thing with the whole cooldown thing, it would be like, well, it would kind of it would feel a little bit jarring to feel that cooldowns are work a certain way here but not elsewhere. So I don't know, but that's just kind of an
Yeah.
idea to bring up. The whole point though is to make it so that you still want to run like the actual content that you want to run in order to get like the best gear. You know, you don't want to just be like, oh, well, I'm just go do Mythic Plus and I'll be able to like totally out gear this stuff.
Right.
Um, I know it's not perfect, but that's just kind of like an idea to make it so that there are certain barriers and there are certain rewards to focus on certain content because that's what you do. I don't like the whole feeling of, well, shoot, I feel like I'm gearing slowly, more slowly than others because I don't do Mythic Plus. I don't have this thing because I don't do Mythic Plus, and um, I I guess I do appreciate when Ian says, okay, there are certain items from certain areas that maybe it is okay, but right now I think there's so much freedom to do it
Right.
that I feel compelled to just go up my item level like fast. Like, well, how do you feel about like the whole crossing over of gear?
So I think you're right. I think that is the best way to fix it is you make very area specific items like the benthic gear piece, the whole thing that the issues people had with that. I think if you would just made all those little power and bonus upgrades to work just in Nazachar and in the raid, you've been fine. But some of them carry over, and that was the problem. That's why I felt like they had to get the socketed version because like it was just like an extra damage component that was super overpowered. I don't think there's anything wrong with just having raid specific things, dungeon specific, PvP. Um, what breaks all of that is Titan forging. You have to
Hmm.
eliminate it to make that work. Or you just do a cap. Do the old I hate we're going back to like you had it right, Blizzard, is the 5 and 10 item level increase. That was fine. But to get 15, 20, 30 item levels higher than the gear. I mean, I benefit from that a lot when I'm raising up some alts. It's always good
Hmm.
to like get some random 445 piece and like, all right. But overall, that hurts the content that they're providing because it makes no matter how good your raid piece was. I got Titan Forge, you know the best ring in the game, and because secondary stats are so good for me that I don't need anything else from that raid anymore because I got this best ring because it Titan Forged that basically it overran the power that you gave the raid pieces. That's how they'd have to fix that though.
Yeah, so I'm totally cool with having some sort of upgrade like system, whether it was Valor,
Ooh,
whether
yeah,
it
yeah.
was
Do
Pearls and
that
all that stuff.
upgrade, yep.
Yeah, because I
And you
mean,
could use currency from that, like from your weekly chest or at the end of each mythic. You have to do like a cap, right? You can like I run 80 mythic pluses this week to like max out. But like, do you like the what was it Cataclysm or whatever where they had like you could do like
Valor caps
2,000.
and all that
Yeah, Valor
stuff.
caps. Just do caps. I don't think anyone had a real problem with those. And I know that there was the people who feel like, oh, I felt like I had to do that each week.
That was
Well, I would
me,
rather.
actually.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so
But it feels like that now, right? If you don't get your 10, I know you don't do, but like for most people, they feel like they need to get that 10 done, just for the chest at the end, and it's still kind of the same thing. It's
I'm confident that there's some sort of happy medium there because right now we've gone way too far into the whole, hey, maybe I'll get lucky. Like what you were saying before. Hey, you're all got a 445, something or other. But I know that and I've seen plenty of people. I'm sure you've seen it too, where it's like, okay, cool, I got a 445 weapon on my alt. That's great. Even though I'm still running like a 420 on my main, that really
yeah, feels
sucks.
bad.
Yeah, that part doesn't feel good. What would feel better is, hey, cool, I put in the work on my alt and I upgraded stuff and I was able to get these obtain these nice things, and I know that I put into the work towards it, as opposed to I got lucky.
Yep.
uh
Yeah,
it, it,
I think that they need to understand that the people who are going to have a lot of alts and play them are going to put a lot of hours into this game. I put a lot of hours into this game,
yeah.
so I don't mind the work. I don't need the free handout of like, here you go, is a free Titan Forge. I mean,
Hmm.
I'll take it because you're gonna give it to me,
Hmm.
but really, I'm gonna work my way up there anyway. If I have to do it on a slower pace,
Yeah,
that's fine.
not everyone is us, not everyone
Right.
plays the amount of time that you do or the amount of time that I do. So I think I try to understand Blizzard when they say, okay, this is kind of the target market for Titan forging, I guess. But I don't know, there's such a lack of control when it
Right.
comes to just luck. And I don't. It doesn't feel quite as. I mean, it's a moment of surprise, but I'd rather exchange those moments of surprise for those moments of fulfillment. To be like, yes, I was able to craft, or I was able to upgrade this thing to the
Right.
thing that I wanted it to be, and I want to get that feeling back, and that's why I still like crafting stuff. I'm like, all right, cool. You know what? We're Crab and I, one of our shaman, where we'd be like, all right, cool. We got enough stuff. We're gonna bounce out from the raid real quick because we want to go make our goggles and all
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
because now we can make the cool thing. And I'd be like, yes, brang. And I'd be like, oh, this feels so good, and it does feel good.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think Blizzard might be learning a lot from how Classic, right? The explosion of Classic is there is
mhm.
this one item in this one dungeon, and that is your best thing. And yeah, the popularity of it obviously is, I think, more than they thought it could be. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it just shows the testament if people are okay with, I need to run this race no matter how long it takes to get to the end. But once they get to the end, it's okay. They can move on to another race. They don't have
Mhm.
to keep pushing the same thing over and over.
We'll see what happens at BlizzCon. Oh
We
man.
will. I want to hear when Ian said that whatever idea they have for Titan Forge, I think I'm more excited about that.
Well, that's supposed to happen in
Almost.
this. That's supposed to happen in this patch.
Yeah, this patch,
So
but I'm curious to see what they're going to say from. I'm saying from that announcement they did, the 17-minute long like explanation of 8.3. Like that was the most interesting thing that come out of that, besides the screenshots of Nyalotha.
yeah.
I'm very excited for that raid.
No.
If that's the background skybox of that raid, I'm just gonna die. I love it.
Speaking of Nyalotha, so which tank are you gonna bring? Because you
Yeah,
bring them all. So who are you gonna bring
I'm
this
thinking
time?
about it right now. So I'm thinking right now in between Protection Warrior and Brewmaster Monk, trying to figure out which I like best. I think that, I mean, there's a lot of other people have their own descriptions on it. I think that the two things play completely different, and I always try to think of how our healers will have to deal with the situation, right? Because the majority of Pro Warrior, its damage reduction is front loaded. If
Yeah.
I keep up all my cooldowns going, my bar never moves. But Monk has that continual ticking clock that you have time to heal, and overall they usually tend to take less damage. They're easier to heal, but it's a whole different change of mindset for someone. I'm always very adamant about that. So I think as we continue to progress through, like, just screwing around on different ults and everything, um, kind of gauging between the two. Right now, I think I'm still leaning with the 8.3 very minor nerfs that they're giving to Monk.
Tell me about them, because I don't know about them.
The major one on it, the one they're going to lower their health points about 5%. Monk already has really by far the lowest health points, but their health points don't truly matter, right? What
Right.
matters is dagger. And then they're reducing some of the things that make it really, really strong. Their high tolerance, which is the last talent and the 110 talent, taking that down a couple seconds so you can't have a 13-second extended stagger. And the major point of it is they're reducing the overall amount of stagger damage you can hold from 105% of your agility to 90. 15% cut there, based off your stats. I'm
Okay.
sure once you're geared up in 8.3, all that will kind of just fade away and you won't notice it anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But through progression, 15% can mean something, but it's not big. But for Warrior, right at the bottom there, they had that increased vision of perfection proc rate by 12%. Vision
Oh.
perfection is by far the best Warrior essence. And if you're not going to nerf them at all and increase their essence by 12%, maybe that's the way to go. So I'll keep kind of gauging it out. I find Warrior to be more immediately engaging because, like we said earlier, that it is a very not monotonous, but it is a routine of rolling through. Protection Paladin's the same way, right? Like you burn your AM and then you got to start burning through your cooldowns
Yeah.
to let that gap fill. Protection Warrior is the exact same way. Is like, okay, well, I'm gonna burn 3 shield blocks in a row as those recharge, and I'm gonna do my last stance, and now I got 10 seconds so I can let the rest of them go that way. Where Monk is, I just keep up stagger. That's it. I just keep going. It gives me a better opportunity to see what everything else is going on the raid. I'm sure there's a lot of times in Palace where I was like, I don't know what's going on here. I'm too busy to see what else anyone is doing because I am just focused on making sure that I don't die in this very moment. But on a Monk, I can zoom around, see what everybody else is doing. Like, I just figured out for the first time, and it's cool that you could see where the pool was going to be because he shoots out a little thing. I didn't know that on my Warrior because
I was surprised about that one.
I can't turn around, right? Because I'm just so laser focused on, like, okay, I got 0.2 seconds. All right, next AM, because like it's really tight window to make all that work.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I don't know. I'll continue to see how I like it. I'm actually really enjoying playing Monk for the first time. I haven't normally enjoyed it in the past. I find it to be. I used to think it's very boring, but I think the way they kind of toned down a lot of the tanks this time, I kind of like where it's at in comparison to how some of their tanks feel. I still wish Demon Hunter was a little better. There's nothing that wrong with it, but I want to play with Spirit Bomb build in a raid and make that work. I know you can go to the Gluttony build, but that's not what I'm interested in.
That's like the whole. Watch, I know I'm gonna do it. All right, guys, crit Pally, let's do this. I'm gonna make this work definitely. And then that lasts for like 2 weeks. Then I'm like, wow, what was I thinking? I'm sorry, guys. I still want it to be a thing. It's never gonna be a thing. So it sounds like basically between Warrior and Monk, and then we'll decide at the last second.
It's going to be the last second. I'm going to keep waiting because, changes are going to keep happening in the PTR and rolling out. Right. I'm sure there's going to be a few other nerfs, buffs. We'll see what happens. I think a lot of it's going to depend on what they do with these. Are they going to leave them the way they are? Are they going to change them? Because some of those essences change the way certain tanks play. Like, Perfection pushes Pro Warrior over the edge. Like, it was already really good, but by giving your best DPS and it's a defensive cooldown as well as Avatar being up so often, they just made a tank that was already great even better.
It feels like
I wish they'd revert the old Death Knight the Death Knight nerfs they got in 8.1 because it was so strong at the beginning of the dungeon, the beginning of the expansion. They need to revert those back, and I think DK would be in a much better place. But those nerfs are just feel so bad now because everybody else is caught up. So give them back that that Necropolis talent.
Oh right, yeah, I remember that. That was really
Yeah,
strong
that's
too.
it's an essence now. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
basically. So I'm taking a glance at the new essences that are coming out, and something that had kind of come to mind too was that, with the Formless Void one, the one that lets you steal the essences and
yep,
all that stuff, I was like, all right, cool. Like we can definitely like steal the essence of the focusing hours or some other
right.
impressive
What
cooldown like that. But then
do you think you can steal the? Sorry, do you think you can? I'm curious to know if you could steal the DPS one from the raid where you summon the little the elemental guy.
I don't see why
Like,
not.
yeah, because you could just steal that and just pop him. Like,
Yeah. But remember, like at least as it is right now, like whenever you pop it, like the cooldown of it is going to be a little bit longer than what
right,
it normally would be, and then depending on the level of your essence, like I think the cooldown like can get pretty long. So it definitely feels like the Formless Void is what this thing is called, and uh, that definitely it feels like it's crap until it's rank 3. So that's something that I immediately don't like about that essence is that it doesn't feel good until you pick up that rank 3. But it kind of depends on what you pick up too. Like I know that the initial thought for the Formless Void is to be like, okay, cool, throughput. Let's do as much damage as we can. But what if I guess I don't recall all the essences very well, but what if we have extra essences that do like a crazy like healing cooldown, or what if DPS can pop a certain defensive essence and otherwise reduce their damage by a whole crap ton. Like what if they all had the nullification dynamo, and then something big pops and a whole bunch of us can pop that sort of thing, and reduce a bunch of their damage taken. So there's some cool little things to it, and me, I want
mhm.
to be able to like do like healing and otherwise not take damage wherever I can, or otherwise just try to help people out or heal them. So I'm like, all right, cool. Can I definitely start topping healing meters if I were to use the Formless Void, steal like Mary's healing essence, and be part of the whole whole rotation with healing cooldowns. That's
Um,
kind of neat. I think that's pretty cool.
yeah, there's also the other one of the other essences in there that buffs everyone else's essence.
That I'm really fascinated with
Yeah.
too. Although that's a DPS essence,
Oh, is it
unfortunately.
okay? But I
Yeah.
do like the idea of it, right? I think they should give that to tanks because I feel like there's some tank trinkets out there that you're just buffing your party.
Hmm.
Um, like Jez Howells out of Toldagor.
Hmm.
Uh, I like those a lot to be able to like. It feels like kind of adding to the tank role a little bit of like I'm providing you also this buff. I think that yeah, they should make that a tank essence to allow them to do that. But it's a giant coordinated effort, and I love when they let players do that. Of like all of you decide when the best time is to use your thing, right? Because it was the ring
WAD, I think.
in WAD, yeah,
That
yeah.
that
Like all
was
right, this is
memorable.
this is our ring moment. Like yeah,
And then you break the fight. And given that we're in the
yeah.
last tier of this expansion, it's like, fuck, why not? Why not make it so that eventually we just
Yeah.
start breaking systems? I think that's totally okay. So like I definitely wouldn't mind for this. God, which one is it called? It's called Spark of Inspiration is the one you're talking about, where it powers up people's
Mhm.
essences. I would like to see that to be like the Formless Void, which is not spec specific. So just let anybody put that on, and then
Yeah.
and then make up some other DPS essence, something cool, something flashy, woo, what do you do?
Sure.
So something personal, because it feels a little bit weird to give DPS the what's basically the support essence.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna say you could also yeah, you make a healer or tank doesn't matter, but you're right. Support essence.
Hmm. So and because the Formless Void, the one that lets you steal the stuff, that definitely feels like a support essence, because it can be anything. It could be throughput, which is what most people I'm sure are going to do anyway, but it could be healing, it could be defensive, or whatever the heck utility that it comes with. So There are 7 essences. There's two per spec, and then one, the Formless Void, which applies to everybody. I want one more. Give me one more. Give it to a DPS so that we can get the spark of inspiration, and then let
Yeah.
anybody wear it if they felt like it. Because there's definitely like a cap to it. You can't have everyone use the spark of inspiration because you want to be able to power up people's essences and
Yeah.
all that. So yeah, that would be kind of cool. I mean, heck, I guess if we really wanted to, we can you and I can pick up, or someone else can pick up Formless Void, and then they can steal the Spark of Inspiration
Right.
and do that.
Someone's
So,
gonna figure out a way to cheese that correctly, and that's what people will do.
oh yeah, I'm
They'll
sure.
get they get like like both tanks will get that. They'll both steal inspiration, so they'll buff it like 90% or whatever, and then they'll nerf and they'll figure that out that people broke it, and they'll.
So, now that I think about it, so the Spark of Inspiration right now has a 1 minute cooldown. It lasts for 20 seconds, and it applies to people within 15 yards of you. So theoretically, depending on raid size, it looks like you can maybe have full uptime on it. So that way, everyone is constantly using it, constantly has that. Well, now of course it depends because everyone has a cooldown on their
Yeah.
essences, whatever that is. But you can theoretically, because it only has a 1 minute cooldown already. You
Right.
can kind of coordinate that and make it so that it's always available for someone as long as people are using their sparks at the same time. So from a world first standpoint, it can feel really complicated, I bet, because you're coordinating all these different things, and on top of that, you want to pop your spark at the right time, so that way, some of your DPSers or healers, they can get more throughput out of whatever essences that they're using. So, I think from a really high level, like a raid lead standpoint, this thing will this thing will either be super interesting or it's going to really piss them off, or both, because
Right.
of how they're going to feel required to coordinate all these things with everyone else. But it's interesting. I think this one's going to be like a really subtle game changer.
It's gonna be the best, or no one's gonna use it.
Yeah, I think that's really what it sums up to. It's like, so when can I use my essence of the focusing arrows? Because I think that's what most people are going to care about.
Sure, but most raids, any organized raid has specific times they're gonna use this anyway. Like an
Hmm.
Ashara, like save yours for when the ads show up in the middle and we nuke them
Hmm.
all down. So there's already moments for those designed anyway, but you turn it around and be like, all right, well, we're gonna drag the boss over there too, and then we'll inspire everyone, and then everyone pop off your laser. Then like
Yeah. As for the tank one, let's see, where are the two tanky ones? Strength of the Warden. That's the one. That's the kind of DPSy one. I mean, I feel like this one is going to be good for Mythic Plus. It's the one where you taunt. It has a 2 minute cooldown. You taunt everyone, but at least for those 6 seconds, you do 50% extra damage to
right,
those mobs. So if you time it with some sort of DPS thing, like I was messing around with it on the PTO, where I'm like, okay, I'll pop my Avenging Wrath, and then I'll do the taunt, and then I'll do whatever burst I have. Like I was just ripping through dudes, and I was like,
right.
okay, this feels kind of cool. 6 seconds, 50% increased damage. That's not bad. You just got to be able to time your stuff right. But it definitely feels like it's going to be much better for certain tanks as
Oh
opposed
yeah,
to other tanks.
Warrior's gonna eat that alive. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna, because you can pop Avatar, bring everything in, booming shout. So you already have all your multiplicatives worked up.
Mm-hmm.
Then you pop that, you're gonna want all aggro on everything anyway. So like the taunt everything is just like an added bonus to just make sure, right, that one guy didn't escape. And then, well, you're only gonna probably get 3 thunderclaps out of that, but
That's
man, if
huge. That's
it's
huge.
things just gonna melt.
Mm-hmm. So
Well,
I'm
I'm probably
confident.
going warrior.
No, hold on, because I'm pretty confident that it's not gonna like take a lot of testing for Blizzard to realize, okay, I know it's only 6 seconds. I know it's only a 2 minute cooldown, or it's a 2 minute cooldown, but I think it's a little bit much. I have a feeling that it's gonna get nerfed. I have a pretty strong feeling that that it's going to get nerfed somehow. Probably
They'll
not.
figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, probably not a longer cooldown. But I think the damage increase is going to be a bit much. But then
Yeah,
the
I don't mind. I think yeah, Warrior's the one of the few that breaks it, right? I think it's time to let some tanks, other tanks, have just a little bit of that DPS flavor. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, for paladins, it felt really soft in this current season because it's weird because null dynamo. For I still haven't looked up any guides or anything like that, but nullification dynamo easily felt like the best one for protection paladin because I was just
Mm.
soaking up so much magic damage. I'd be like, oh,
Yeah, no,
just
that's a
give
good
it all
one.
to me, just give it all to me, and then the more damage that you absorb, the null dynamo explodes and it does some decent damage. So it was regularly like my fourth or fifth. Yeah, it was like fourth or fifth on damage. So I was like, oh, okay, this feels kind of cool, but it just kind of sucked that I'm not actually doing anything. It just kind of
Sure.
was like a thing that I did, and the defensive cooldown it didn't apply that damage whenever it wore off. But yeah, the strength of the warden thing, it's kind of it provides kind of a similar effect to a lot of like the trinkets and other things that we have, where it increases your or it stores health, but then every time you dodge or parry something, then that health comes back, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of okay,
Mm.
but if I'm constantly fighting, then it's not going to build up. It feels like it's going to be a pretty small heal because
Right.
it just seems small and dependent on dodging or parrying an attack. So it almost feels like for classes that do a lot of that sort of mitigation. So like if you're a druid and you're dodging a lot of stuff, if you're a paladin or a anyone else and you're just parrying a lot, then it's not going to feel reliable. But
Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, all these essences are very tank specific,
mhm,
where some excel better based on
mhm.
their kit than others. We'll see. I think that one's not going to be good for anybody. Like a monk's not going to be good. There is no DPS cooldown for it. Druids don't have one. Like maybe Demon Hunter might make it work, right? You pop med at the same time.
Yeah, I'd say
DK might do your Eternal Rune weapon, and then Warrior and Paladin. It depends on if you go wings and if you proc into or talent into Seraphim as well, then you could really burst huge. But
yeah, I can definitely see some strong stuff with Seraphim for funsies and all that stuff. And I'm sure that's the meta for a lot of prop paladins is to go that route anyway. So there are definite benefits to something like that, and it feels like the cooldown. Let's see, 45 seconds. Oh yeah, it can line up pretty well. But but we'll have to see. I guess it'll be fun to play with because from the looks of
yeah,
it, I'm not quite sure. So, in order to get this strength of the Warden essence, you need 50 Echoes of Oblivion, and at least right now, I have no idea where to get that stuff.
who
I
knows?
yeah. So,
Who knows?
well, actually, let me look again. It says something something through the depths of. I have a feeling that it's going to involve horrific visions. Running that stuff a bunch of times is going to get you this particular essence. That's just my guess, based on the
Yeah,
tooltip that I'm seeing. But the other essence is it's kind of dull. It's like the one zombie trinket where
mm,
it prevents death, but it is kind of a strong defensive where instead of dying, you know you of course you don't die, you get some health back, but you also take 85% reduced damage for 3 seconds, which is like you know cool, and then at the same time it'll also reset it'll also reset your major cooldown. So if you just popped your shield wall or guardian of the ancient kings
right.
and you still die, the cooldown comes back up. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but it has a 10-minute cooldown
It's
on
so
that
long,
effect. So I'm like, it's not gonna do anything. It doesn't. Yeah,
right?
this doesn't feel great. I think it's pretty shit. I'm probably not gonna care about this thing at all. And that one looks like it is a rep. It's a rep essence. Woo. I'm not very
I
excited
don't
about it.
mind. At least I know where I'm at on that. But I wish they'd fix some of these. Yeah, some of the way to get some of these essences. I feel like it could have been handled differently. But
Yeah, there's still plenty of gripe about one wanting essences to be account wide, which I don't agree with. Actually, I think that it's like saying, well, if I earned this weapon, so I think this weapon should be unlocked on all of my classes or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that I don't buy into. I mean, I think some of the certain requirements should be considered account wide, like PvP and all that. Like if you need a certain
Sure.
yeah, if you need like a certain achievement or something like that, then maybe some of that stuff can carry over from one character to another, or there should be some sort of catch up for alts. The whole
Yeah.
tabard thing for rep
Yeah,
and all
that's
that.
yeah, right. Like you place a tabard at Exalted that increases your reputation bonus with that faction by like 50%. So like that you can buy it on your Exalted character and you can just mail it off to your alt
Hmm.
and get them there half the speed. That'd be
Yeah,
fine. I think it's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Either something like that, or kind of like being able to trade war resources. It's like, okay, there's a conversion of like, every one war resource or three
Right.
resources equates one. Trade it
The
off to your
Blood
alt.
Sargeras trading, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and shuffle. Shuffles like that. Those things help. But just doing a straight up, hey, I want it to be like account wide and all that stuff. That feels a little bit lazy. I think there are more interesting things that Blizzard can do to make it like a bit more engaging for a player to like earn stuff on their main and then give stuff to their alts if they felt like it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about bringing legendaries in finally? We
That
got the
that,
cloak
that
back.
that's not a legendary. It doesn't.
It's a Mando.
It doesn't. I mean, it's well. There are people that have been saying it's like, okay, cool. The cloak is like 475 or something like that. But also, cloaks don't drop from the new raid at all because we're just going to figure
Oh,
that, yeah. So
right. Oh, it just makes cloaks. Oh, boy, yeah. Because like, so now when you get a cloak in Mythic Plus, you can be like, oh man.
well, there's the other thing though. It's like depending on the stats. Like if you have your best in slot cloak in Mythic Plus, then you only need to use the legendary cloak for fights
Mm,
that would use it because I guess the cloak has certain mechanics to the cloak does certain things with insanity or corruption that are going to be relevant when it comes to certain trinkets. I think there's some trinkets that kind of interact with it, but it's pretty soft
right.
from what I've seen. And then towards the end of the raid, when there are insanity effects, and the cloak is going to help. But apart
Mm,
from that, not so much. I mean, it does kind of go back to my whole thing on, hey, let's have like certain let's have certain things be raid exclusive. So
okay.
so that's kind of cool. But yeah, it wouldn't feel good to be like, okay, cool, this thing is considered legendary. I think people are stuck on that. The whole idea of, oh my god, it's orange, so it's got to be like the greatest thing ever.
Right.
And the fact that that it seems to be somewhat situational, then people are like, oh, what a letdown, Blizz, bleh. And I think that's a little bit weak.
That's fine. Oh, and before we go on, this isn't about either.
Yeah.
So when you did the Whispers of Nazoth video and the one about the King of Light or whatever sits on a false crown,
Hmm.
I immediately thought of Bolvar of like, wait, is maybe that's what they mean? And I see here on Wowhead that there's some Jaina and Anduin talk about Bolvar on the PTR.
Yeah, so yeah, I looked at a bunch of the stuff and I was like, okay, so it definitely feels like that. At minimum, there's going to be an updated Death Knight starting quest that will basically include the other races that haven't been included yet, even the allied races.
Mm.
So chronologically that's going to move ahead. I'm not
Okay.
sure if there's going to be I'm not sure if it's going to be like, okay, they're also going to start at level 55 like current Death Knights do, or if they're going to start at a different level. But I mean, it
Okay.
definitely would feel weird to do the whole Death Knight starting thing as a Lightforge Draenei. You kind of
Right. That'd be
jump
weird.
in and you're like, okay, cool. Let's crush Lights Hope's chapel, even though I've never been here before. But I mean, I know it's kind of immersion breaking already because allied races start at level 20, and technically they weren't around
Right.
during the Cataclysm. But I guess it's just a bit much. But having an updated
Yeah.
quest line is cool. I think that's going to be neat. Like I'll do it just for the sake of doing it. But cool. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna play at Death Knight. Whatever. I'm just doing it for the quests. Not a big deal. But yeah, we're gonna get thrown into other stuff, and I think what's going to help kick it off is this whole Death Knight thing. With more people coming about, but yeah, so it might lead to. I don't know if it's going to necessarily be. So my prediction is that maybe the Lich King's going to be involved in some way, shape, or form with the next expansion, but it's not going to be themed totally after him. It's kind of like how the expansions have been. It's like, okay, cool. It might be called Battle for Azeroth, but it's going to be like this multi-stage, multi-chapter thing where we're going to set up and knock down certain things, kind of like with Miss Pandaria, where it started off as, hey, we're exploring a new land, and then we move into like this kind of faction skirmishes between the Horde and Alliance, and then it turned into, oh, okay, Garrosh is gone heel, let's take him down. So my prediction is that we're going to explore this whole idea of the Frozen Throne being linked to the Shadowlands. And I even had a joke, and I even had a joke where the Lich King's throne is like a toilet, and we're just gonna get flushed down the toilet, and then ta-da, we're in the Shadowlands. Oh my god! So yeah, so that's kind of my prediction there. But as for like how it's all related, and if the leaks have to do with anything, I mean, I still doubt the leaks mean fuck all for anything.
No, it happens every expansion. There's a lot of clever people out there, but yeah, I think Telius on his latest video pointed out specifically like some of the text in there, like it directly proves like somebody just made it up. Good on them, but like the next expansion still could legitimately be Shadowlands. For sure,
oh yeah. I have very little doubt that we're going to explore it in some way, shape, or form. It just depends on, is it going to be like a whole expansion continent map sort of thing, or is it going to be like patch content? Are we going to have? Is it going to be kind of like 8.3, where we're going to get Nyalotha like kind of leaking in the form of assaults, or some sort of, or like minor zone changes to where parts of the Shadowlands are leaking in, and maybe not so much invasions, but pseudo semi-permanent changes to the landscape, where kind of like Tirisfal Glades and how the Intercity got blighted. Maybe we'll get like some big event like that where chronologically your first time through the Barrens, it's going to be like going through the first time through the Barrens, but when you're at level 120 something or other, now a good chunk of the Barrens is like this half dead, half living sort of thing, and there's all this shit that's hit the fan. So kind of like so it's kind of like Cataclysm, but I think that Blizzard has definitely learned that, hey, don't replace things permanently. Or if anything, have a way to change things back, so that way there's some continuity there and people can still run the old content. So
yeah, I hope they get away.
All right.
Hopes for BlizzCon. Kind of. I know you've done a whole video about that.
I'm gonna do many more. I gotta earn that media badge, man.
Yeah, you do.
Oh yeah. Shoot, let's talk about the future. Like the actual future of WoW. Like how are we feeling? Like, how much longer are we going to put up with this damn game until we get sick of it and want to play Final Fantasy or some other, or get into something else?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I'm gonna keep playing until the guild crumbles into dust, and when it does, then I'll be like, oh god, am I gonna pug? And just
nightmare.
Yeah, just the thought. I don't know how you do it. I still don't know how you deal with the pug world. I mean, I'm still waiting for. I don't think I checked this particular build, but the damn community thing is still there.
Yeah,
the guild finder and all that stuff, it's there, it's on. As far as I know, it is in the game right now. It's just that Blizzard hasn't flipped a switch and turned it on, and I'm weirded out by that.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I think that's one of the things that holds it back, right? Is the sense of community's gone. Why is, again, to bring back to the classic WoW? I mean, everybody's like the sense of community. It's really important in this type of game, and Yeah, I don't know why they didn't include that again for many times they haven't, but
I don't know. Like, I think the idea of like sharding and phasing and all that stuff, like I get why they did it, but the fact
sure.
that it is so um all encompassing, like you can see any, pretty much anybody from the region, it makes that whole community feel so large that you get lost in it. And I wouldn't mind going back to something like battle groups. So like if they limited sharding and all that stuff to a battle group, and then I can at
Right,
least talk shit about my battle group and be like, yeah, my battle group's like, it's like mostly horde and like we're feeling pretty good and yada 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 and fuck the alliance, whatever. But the fact that it's so nebulous, that
hmm,
it I don't know, it sucks seeing someone knowing that it's like being on the freeway. Cool, everyone's on the
yep,
freeway, but you're only gonna see that person like once ever, and they're just like a nameless nobody. They pass right by and then they're gone. Like
right,
that's it. Now on at the same time, the way that I enjoyed Classic or the way that I enjoyed WoW, I was kind of xenophobic, or maybe not so xenophobic. It's more like I enjoyed the feel of being in an MMO, seeing people go by or seeing familiar faces and all that stuff. But for the most part, when it came to the actual gameplay, when I'm actually doing stuff, I just preferred to do it by myself because I like to go in at my own pace. I didn't like,
right.
I prefer that over as opposed to being strung along in a party or having to wait for someone because they're doing something and I'm like, okay, let me respect their time. I know that they want to pick this herb or they want to finish this quest, and I'm like, "Ugh, I could be done so much faster if I did it myself," and so on and so forth.
Right.
So that's why I like playing alone. But for the most part, yeah, it does feel like really anonymous when I'm going around and I'm seeing people from different shards and all that, and the whole thing about having to server hop and all that stuff, that drives me nuts. Like I would be fine if things were more transparent, where
Hmm.
if I go into a zone, I could choose, hey, let me just pull up a menu and go into this instance of the zone because I know it's more populated, or let me go into this instance of the zone because I know it's less populated. I'd like to be able to just kind of choose that. And yeah, I know it's kind of immersion breaking and I know that it's not
Yeah.
dynamic, but when it's so automatic, it's that whole invisible hand thing again. I don't like it when Blizzard, or I don't like it when games you know carve out too much of the experience for me. Like some of this
Okay.
stuff I just want to do on my own.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Like, I prefer, like, when I'm leveling, I prefer to level alone. That's for sure. I like to do that kind of RPG experience, go through the quest, do that kind of thing. That I enjoy that. But depending on the content you like, that's where I think that Blizzard needs the help because some people don't like to reach out, right? Like the reason I do so many pugs, and I say pug, but the higher keys that I do are with people that we had something happened really well. Like we did a good job, and I reached out and I was like, hey, can I put you on my friends list? Are you interested in, like, whenever I'm on, if like you want to heal something for me? And they're like, yeah, sure. But not everybody's gonna do that. I mean, half the pugs, I'm sure, probably just end in all right. I mean, some people don't say thank you for the group. I still always try to at least say, like, thanks for the key, thanks for bringing me along, or have a good day, or something, like, keep it somewhat sociable. But a lot of people just, like, leave group, move on to the next one, and that social experience is gone. So
Mm-hmm.
they gotta Blizzard has to find a way to reinvigorate the social atmosphere of Warcraft, and I think that would do more for it than any whatever expansion or whatever they want to do. That's what would pump life back into this game.
I mean, it's hard to take this whole 15-year-old player base that's fragmented across hundreds and hundreds of servers or realms, and try to. There's got to be a way to bring them together, and that's why I have such a hard on over the whole communities thing, and being able to
Mhm.
search for them, because just imagine it's like, okay, let me join, let me find a good Mythic Plus community. Right now, that's not that much of an option. I don't know how to look for that. Is it a subreddit? Is it a
Discord.
Discord
That's where you
chat?
find.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, is it a subreddit? Is it the Discord channel or something like that?
WoW progress. Yeah, yeah.
But which one? And how do I join this one? And yada yada yada. So if there, so
Sure.
I really want them to implement this whole community thing in 8.3. God, it's fucking so late. But I want them to implement this community search so that way, instead of having to find something on a Discord channel or a subreddit or a forum or whatever, I could just like run a search and I'll look for the most popular looking Mythic Plus channel and I'll join them. And from there, that whole social experience, I would assert it would come back because it's like, hey, cool, I'm here. I want to run stuff. Who's with me? And then, and if I suck, then and people stop coming with me or they kick me out, then it's like, oh, sure, there are bad feelings, but that's a social experience, and I want
Sure.
that. I want people
You
to
do, but a
have.
lot of people don't want to feel
Yeah,
bad though.
yeah. A lot of people don't want to feel bad, but that's what. It's not like I'm saying the group finder should go away.
Right.
Let that be a thing. But otherwise, for people who want to have a bit more of a tailored experience, I mean, I mean, it's kind of the same thing, sort of like having a community. It's just that it's a lobby, and it's like, okay, cool, who's in the lobby right now? Okay, it's that person. Okay, I ran with them. I ran with them. That person sucks. I don't want them. I hope they get kicked at some point. But it's really the community that you want it to be. So someone's in charge of
Right.
that community, and you can
Mm-hmm.
you can tailor it the way that you want to. You can kick people. You can, or you can have it be invite only. So like, for example, like the people that you might enjoy being with, you can offer, okay, either let me get you on my friend, let me add you to at your battle tag, or here's my community, and they can choose to join it or not. They still have that choice, and maybe they won't, but
Right.
it's just another way to get players connected, and I want that. The game needs it. Like, they needed this
Agree.
community tool in 8.0, and it came in like half baked, which is a bummer. And 8.1.5, yeah, 8.1.5, no, 8.8.2 came by, and they almost brought it in, and they didn't. 8.2.5 came in, it still didn't come in. So it's like, is it going to come in or what? Because they
Yeah,
haven't
and
said
wasn't there an
anything about it.
iteration? Yeah, there's some back in, was it Draenor or Legion too, where they also had something in there too, where they kind of updated the guild finder. But
Yeah, yeah, those ones they updated like a couple of things, and of course that's when they brought in the pre-made group tool. But it's not enough. There's just not
right.
enough celebration of trying to create more permanent groups beyond battle tags, which is a plus. I think it was a great system for the game, but there just needs to be more. And the players are being more and more fragmented across these servers, and need a way to get connected. So.
Right. Yeah, so it is. It's they need to find a way to. It's not connecting people. I think things like Group Finder and all that connect people, right? It's a quick like, hey, I'm interested in this very small thing of
That's
like,
true. Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to do this thing. You bring them together, but there's no way to keep. There's not a good way to keep people together or to immerse themselves in another like social group.
Hmm.
And that's the way they got to do it. It's all like very surface level, which I mean, you could say a lot about like how modern society. There's a lot of things right there that nowadays that connect people from a very surface level, but it requires that player, person, whoever, right? To it's on them to dig deeper. But I think that you could design some aspects, like some technology like app or something like that or within this game especially that allow people to come together further than something like a friends list. Like
Yeah,
I think you can do more.
yeah. I think Blizzard is. I guess they're overestimating the players' tendency to want to socially interact. They're gonna go. They're gonna go that path of least resistance. That's like such a strong takeaway that we've gotten over the years, where players will do
Hmm.
the easiest thing that they can get away with, and in this case they're just going to join the anonymous group. They're not going to say much of anything, the absolute minimum, not because their goal is to get the gear, get their 10 in, and bounce. And there's so many things that contribute to that sort of mindset. The fact that the fact that dungeons are runs and not
Hmm.
crawls, you know right now in Classic, you'll be doing you're seeing the 2019 mindset coming to 2000, go all the way back to 2004, where it's like, okay, cool, I can do this dungeon and explore with my friends, and it's like super amazing. Or it could be like, all right, let me get someone with high cleave, let's get mages, and let's like run this thing as quickly as
Sure.
possible so we can get this thing over with, so I can get the gear. And when they're done, since they can keep repeating it, all right, let me hop back to trade chat and do this thing all over again. So that kind of mindset hasn't is has followed us.
Hopefully they address it. I think that they can, and they have to be aware of it. I don't know how they couldn't be at this point. Community outreach, even in this expansion, feels like it's really dropped off. I don't know if you've noticed it all, but I yeah, it feels like it's not there anymore. I think that would be my wish for BlizzCon. If somehow Blizzard would acknowledge that they want to listen to players' feedback, and not the people complaining about stuff, but it's the minor things that I don't know who is actually playing this game and how they're involved within the communities, but simple things like being slightly more dynamic with changes. One, I wish they would really respect the amount of people, the work that people do on PTRs, and describing like certain issues they're going to run to, submitting bugs, problems, players' feedback in these development cycles. Because so often I'll see issues or something arise that players clearly addressed, and it comes out in the live game as well. And all it is like numbers tweaking, or like, hey, you understand that like the way this character works, this is going to be exploited heavily, and there's things in this recently that haven't changed for 6 months to a year that were brought back, like issues that were brought up in development. So I hope they really learn to embrace the feedback. Everyone wants this game to succeed, and everyone who plays it loves it. No matter how much you complain about it, if you play it, there's some part of you that loves this, and they all want it to succeed. Just they should accept that feedback as best they can, and you can't please everyone. We all understand that. You got to fix what's broken, and I think the community is letting them know what they don't like about this game. And yeah, find a way to deal with it. And I'm sure they'll pledge to be better with the community and be more vocal again, like they always are. But stick to it, right? Like sometimes there's waves. It's up and down. Like we're communicating. Radio silent for 6 months or whatever it is. Just stay on that track. They're paying people to do these jobs. Do them
I
or
think
hire
part.
me.
I think part. I think part of the. I don't know if we can call it a problem, but I guess I'll just call it a problem. Part of the problem is that it seems like um, there is a shroud that falls over this relationship between when we give feedback and when things can be implemented, and it comes from like the way that the game is being developed. It's like, Blizzard will come out with a PTR, and they'll have all these different kinds of features, and it's like this and this and this, and then players will give their feedback expecting that Blizzard is able to easily pivot. Well, gosh, Blizz, all you have to do is go into your spreadsheets and change these numbers or change these things and just do that, and like that's it. But we don't quite know what's going on under the hood. And I think it's a problem that Blizzard doesn't quite tell us what's under the hood. I mean, basically, I think that Blizzard needs to give us PTRs earlier and not use
Okay.
the PTR as just a, hey, let's data mine it and look at previews and stuff like that. I think if they do like much more focused things early, and just tell us, hey, here are some new abilities that we want to test out. You're not going to see these abilities until like 2 patches from now, because that's the
Right.
reality of it. That's how long it's really going to take for us to take in your feedback and apply it to what's going on. It creates this expectation from players that Blizzard can fix these things in a matter of weeks, and some things they can, but there are many things that they can't. So I think the communication needs to improve in the sense that we need to know really how long does
Right.
it take for Blizzard to make actual changes and pivots on things. Because if they can't, don't try to make us think otherwise. That's
Yeah.
kind of
There's
that's
some.
kind of my
Yeah.
big thing.
And they've done the same thing with like what I know people for a long time complained about how small like the initial bag you get is, and they're like, look, it's in the code, we can't change it. And then everybody's like, oh, okay. thanks. That's all you need to say. Like,
Hmm.
you can't fix it.
And,
Like,
and what's funny,
I know I don't want to put it like,
and what's funny is that later on, so I remember this from a BlizzCon. They were like, "Oh, I don't know why we said that. It is easy to change. We just haven't
oh,
done
is
it
it?
yet." Yeah, yeah. So
Sure.
so
It
it
was
turned out to be
that one guy whose job it was said like,
yeah.
I can't do that.
So I mean, I think a good example of this was with essences. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, with Azerite traits, where people were like railing on them as soon as they came out. We're like, wow, this stuff seems really soft and kind of bleh. Blizzard, what are you gonna do about it? It's improved a little bit over time, but for the most part, once it was in, like the whole concept and the whole whatever engine changes that they had to do to implement these Azerite traits and all that stuff, that was like locked. It's like, okay, cool, this is it. This is what we're gonna have for the expansion, and we're gonna ship it, and we'll try to do what we can to kind of course correct, but otherwise this ship is going.
Yep.
We're going to keep going with this. So I would love to see better. I would love to see maybe saying something vague like better communication is a bit vague, but I would just love to see earlier works in progress. Like I would love to see like a dev water cooler where they say, "Hey, we're experimenting with these kinds of abilities that we want to implement in the future thing. Here's how it works. Here's a PTR that demonstrates this thing. What do you guys think? Try it out. It might be cool, or it might be something that we scrap. But here's basically a test playground for like a bunch of garbage that we're putting in that you might
Hmm.
see later in game somehow, some way."
Sure.
So things like that I think would be huge, because Blizzard has said so many times, "Oh, well, we plan these things like months and months in advance, and so we're
Sure.
not quite sure if the players are going to be accepting of this." Well, then why don't you show us some of this stuff, even if it's really early and unstable and almost unplayable? Just give us a PTR build with a feature and nothing else, because I think that's all we really need. I don't think we need PTRs to be like this whole showcase of stuff, and oh god, let's look at the new Volpura mounds and all that stuff. That's for a different that's a different time and place. When it comes to presenting systems that we may or may not like, give it to us sooner, or show it to us sooner. You don't need to surprise us, because I think there's a lot of us who don't want to. When it comes to game systems, I don't want to be surprised. I wouldn't mind if the players did have a bit more of a hand in helping develop these kinds of things early. When it comes to story and all that, sure, go ahead and encrypt everything. That's not a big
Yeah.
deal.
100% fine with that.
Oh, I
You know
think
what? The last thing I want in my life is more climate surveys. But I think if Blizzard instituted, like, say on the launcher, right, and don't make everyone participate in it because some don't want to, but maybe they go through, build a climate survey of something that's easy to track in statistics, right? Like, what are your most favorite function or features of the game? What do you dislike? Why do you dislike it? And then they can use that to like create like a word cloud of like, turns out like, boring rotation comes up like 90% of the time, or people don't like all unfriendly and things like that. And you can address those directly with the people. Like, hey, we saw your issues that and our thinking behind was that, like for essences, right? Like making every essence lock behind a certain feature of the game. Our idea was that we would try to get players out there and try to jump into another level of content that they like. It turns out that majority of players aren't a big fan of that, so we're thinking about like currencies, and then you put out like another survey, like maybe do like a monthly survey of like how do you feel about these, right? Like, do you prefer like a cap system where you can earn rep in tokens, but you can only earn so much, or would you prefer something like random um, Titan Forge chance? You know, there's people that can do that for a living that could design better questions that could yield better results,
right.
but this creates a minimal amount of conversation of I'm at least expressing my likes and dislikes. They understand the feels, and you're not going to please everyone again, but I think that you're going to have some of those major outliers that come up will float to the top, and they can be addressed by, and that is a very easy and active way to show that one Blizzard is listening, and they can communicate back either their thoughts or their ideas to change, said system and say, hey, the system's kind of built in at this point. We can't really back out from this way, so we're going to continue with, the Azeroth system through the end of the expansion. But it's not something we plan on moving forward. And everybody'd be like, "Yay!" Or the 12 people that don't like it would be like, and it fixes uh, that issue of at least just replying to random stuff on message boards. This way, everyone kind of gets to communicate without having to like. I don't put anything on message boards because I don't want some Yahoo to just blast me because he disagrees with my opinion. I'm just trying to give Blizzard my opinion, right? Like whether or not it's masked into some word cloud, some algorithm somewhere that states like, oh, this 1 out of 1 million players doesn't like this system. At least my voice was inputted and corrected. And if I'm in the minority, then that's the way it is. Like, okay, I get it. I'll deal with it. But other aspects that the majority of people are having an issue with the game can be remedied. I think that it would work miles for them. And I've seen like they can email surveys out to certain people and all that. I say make it 100% optional. Make it for everyone to have the opportunity to at least fill out a whatever you want to call it, some survey, feedback report, something. Just give them a few questions. Start small and see what's about that. Like what the best thing they can do right now? Do a retail versus classic WoW survey right
Oh
now.
boy.
See what the players feel of how they do. And you know what? And that could help kind of gauge it. I think there's great aspects from both, and I think that I'm not no changes, hashtag no changes for classic, but I think that a lot of what was developed can help continue to push this game forward in a way that people want to see. Sometimes you're going to shed players left and right. It's going to happen, but I mean, the majority of people I think playing this game weren't around for Classic. That's why Classic's so popular. People want to play it. That's why I don't play it. I got to level 13 and I was like, right, I remember all of this. I don't want to do this. I know where this is going to lead me, but I still love retail and I play the crap out of it. And so yeah, I just want to see it proceed and just get better and better.
No, I'm totally behind the idea of sending like proactive surveys as opposed to a survey when you quit. It's like, okay, it's one thing to be like,
Right.
okay, we want to know why you quit so that way it doesn't happen. But what about surveys that just talk about, okay, what's going to keep you playing?
Yeah.
Right?
90% of it could be resolved. That's perfect. Why did you quit the game? Yeah. Have this conversation before you quit. I mean, so there's a lot of things in life, right? Like you don't ask until it's too late already. Like
Exactly.
now.
Exactly. It's about that. So, I mean, big takeaway is, yeah, asking beforehand. And yeah, I think including everyone in that is important. It doesn't necessarily have to be a forum where people can discuss,
No.
because it's going to very easily turn into like a total shit show. You're going to get
That's what I'm
people
saying,
arguing
yeah.
with each other. So just leave it as a one-way conversation. Tailor it in such a way that Blizzard can get
Fill out a survey. I'll send it in. Again, a machine can calculate it. Do the gonculations, however they want to do it.
Yeah, because Blizzard loves to, they consistently say, well, we've looked at the data, we've looked at the numbers, we looked at what player trends are, and blah blah blah. Okay, and that's cool. They're looking at what players are actually doing in the game, but sometimes that doesn't. But not all the time does that translate very well. I think they need more data points, and one of those data points is in fact to get some either open feedback, with and capturing a word cloud to see what kind of gets caught. I'm pretty sure Titan Forging is going to be like the biggest fucker on there.
Sure, but if it is, right, like maybe
then do it, right?
Yeah, they're just not aware of it. Like maybe there's the whole thing of like their barrier and they just don't see it. And they're like, "Oh, well, we thought this really helped the casual player, reach that level." But it turns out when 90% of the surveys coming in, I'm randomly picking these stats out of the air, but turn out that like Titan Forging is a major problem in this game, then can address that correctly. And you can't continue wandering blind down this cave of like, oh, I think we feel we're doing the right thing because what we're trying to get a certain mindset, and that's never works, right? You can't try to expect a person to follow what you expect them to do. It never works that way. Humans just aren't built that way. Whatever you think, like, oh, if I do this, they will do this. That never works that way.
Yeah, getting really specific feedback like that, like, and all it takes, in the survey is how many hours do you typically play, like a day
Yeah,
or a week? Are you, what is the hardest content that you have ever completed? Or
yeah,
check here if you do this content, and how often do you do it? So, and those kinds of things, once you capture all those points, and sure, it takes up 15, maybe 20 minutes of a player's time, but the more robust the survey, the better data that they're going to get on top of the actual trends that they're seeing in game. And from there, they can take a look and be like, well, okay, so the surveys say this, but the in-game stuff says this. What does that tell us? And there are clever people that can explain those trends to them. So it's like, why not?
yeah,
Why not have non-exit surveys?
yeah,
As well as much earlier, super targeted testing to to kind of communicate to us what they're experimenting with. Hey, this might be a
yeah.
cool thing, and maybe it won't see the light of day because it sucks, or because it turns out to be technically or mechanically too difficult to implement, or the engine isn't ready for it, or something like that. But being able to see a little bit more under that Blizzard hood without just being like data mining and stuff, I think that would go a really long way.
Yeah, and the only things you'd really be affecting is like, yeah, the systems of the game. Like, let the story be. I think that's something that you don't want to ask the players about. I think that you let Blizzard tell their story. You should never try to influence any artistic work.
Right.
But things like that, and then maybe you take the survey and you open it up a little bit. You have like 15 questions. It takes someone's 5 minutes to fill out because that's what they want to do. But have some calculations of, are you interested in talking further in depth about the class that you play or something, and that can open up another level. So the people who really want to take that time can do that, and you can collect those data points. Yeah, I think they could really do a lot for themselves if they just try to reach out, and yeah, just something as simple as like a survey. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Let
Let's
me get Blizzard HR on it, or whatever the outreach department is. Josh Allen, get something going. Figure it out.
let's get to, I guess we'll get to closing thoughts now.
Yeah,
So I'm still stoked about BlizzCon. I mean, I know that especially this past week with all this anti-Blizzard boycott Blizzard stuff that's been kind of going on. The mood about it feels like it's been soured a little bit, but I'm still stoked. I'm still just going sticking to the context of World of Warcraft. Uh, I'm it's an expansion year, so
yeah,
those are always like super exciting. I absolutely can't wait, and I feel like super privileged and I guess lucky that they gave me another media thing, and so I definitely want to try to ask whoever like as many questions as I can. I have a bunch. There are people that submitted a bunch of questions, and even the talk that you and I had just now, it inspired me to have more. Most specifically with like these surveys and whatnot, and it's like taking in player feedback. Um, but yeah, I'm super looking forward to the franchise's future. It's going to be a busy 2 months. The rest of the year is going to be like nonstop stuff. Like I'm exhausted, but I'm like super stoked.
yeah. It's cool. Then having new things is better than having no things. Yeah, I don't go to BlizzCon because just yeah, I'm not gonna drop that kind of money for something. But I am interested to see what comes out of it, and yeah, I think this is I think a real turning point for how this game has developed over this last expansion cycle. Um, I hope the developers learned a lot, and we'll see what they come up with. I think that this could really, I'm not gonna say boom or bust, but I feel there's a big chance that taking in some of the stuff that they've gotten, the players have given for the feedback for what they've given, I think that they can really affect this game in a very, very dynamic way. And I think WoW can come back and be it's still huge. It's like still millions of people play this game. I mean, it's still the only game I play. I don't play other games. I only play this
I know I feel
one.
bad because I'll pick up games. I'm like, all right, cool. I shit you not. Like last week, I was playing more Final Fantasy 14 because I was like, all right, let me study this game, and this is kind of fun, and then yada yada yada. But and I even went as far as, okay, let me kind of skip ahead a little bit. So I was like giving them money. I'm like, all right, I'll even buy the new expansion. I'll pick that up too. And then all of a sudden, Monday came. This Monday came with the 8.3
Yeah,
drop, and like I haven't opened up the game since. I'm just locked. I have
yeah.
been entombed into World of Warcraft again, and I'm obsessed with learning more. So it still brings me in. It still brings a lot. It still brings a lot of people in. But uh, Blizzard, the WoW team, I should say specifically, they've built and they've burned some bridges with their
Right.
delivery of Battle for Azeroth and how some of the systems just did not work out. But they also brought us classic WoW, and that's brought a lot of people in, and as well as a warm market for people to be like, well, I can play this retail thing. Let's see what this is like. And you
Yeah.
know, and a small percentage of people that are like, you know, this isn't bad. Or it even bolstered their feelings about the modern game. It's like, oh man, thank God I'm back in here, so I can transmog into something that's palatable. Unlike before, God, I'm tired of looking like a freaking clown.
No,
Among other
100%.
things. So
No, I agree. And I mean, it's yeah. He said it all right. It's the think you do but you don't. It's the idea that when they felt they had an idea of what the players wanted, they were just flat wrong. Right? It
mhm.
just 100%. They didn't see the feedback that people were giving them, and so hope I don't know what dev rooms or anything look like that, but hopefully it kind of opened up of like, let's change the paradigm of what is our thinking process that we feel like this is the way the players want to go, and are we actually thinking with the player's best interest in mind, or are we just thinking about like trying to design what we think is the coolest idea?
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so I'm really curious to see. To me, it's not where the expansion is; it's the small features that they're going to include to see where this goes. So I'm excited. I cannot wait for all the videos that everybody puts out, especially you. I'll give you full props
Oh.
of what's going on there and find out what's there. But for me, it's going to be the features. It's going to be the behind the scenes interviews with the devs, which you better work your way in and do whatever you can
No,
because
I'm vengeful.
you'll
I
do a
am
great job. Don't let yourself hold you back.
no,
Get out there and
for
yep.
sure, because I did, and every time I think about it, it's one of those really sickening feelings because I totally feel like I let down viewers, I let down myself
It's
really
okay.
bad, you know. So
Well, that
so
happens, right? Like that's we're all human
yeah,
nature. Like
yeah,
like Blizzard, mistakes happen. You
mm-hmm.
can move on and you can be better. Like use it to learn from it and move on. Everyone is okay. That this we're all humans. We all make mistakes. It's
Yeah.
just how you build on it and how do you move forward.
Yeah, I'm gonna, you know, I mean, I'm that angry, excited, kind of vengeful, so I'm just gonna YOLO this thing and rely on, and I'm gonna
It's just
rely on the
yellow,
Blizzard,
baby.
yeah, and I'm gonna rely on the Blizzard team too to like kind of, because this will be my first time doing it, so I'm gonna rely on them to kind of help and talk me through. I'm probably gonna reach out to other YouTubers and other people to get like some pointers, and tips. Uh, Taliesin is like kind of nice enough. He tends to answer my messages, so I'll ask him and
Nice.
see if he'll offer some tips and stuff. So, but yeah, let's head out, man. It's
Yeah.
time to enjoy the weekend, dude.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, always fun, man. Appreciate it. I hope for the best at BlizzCon.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I hope that you get everything out of it that you want, and I think that's really important. That you want to leave and be like, I should have did that thing. I should have asked that guy that question. Just do it, man.
Yeah, this time, no way. I'm not gonna leave BlizzCon with that sort of feeling because that's exactly what happened last year.
All
Never
right.
again, dude.
Yep.
All right,
It don't
let's
happen. So all right, I'll see you on next raid on Tuesday.
for sure, man. Peace out, dude.
Yep. All right. Later, Soul.
All right.
Peace.